Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. Late night upload for all you OGs. We're going to talk about John Wall. So basically, I just streamed the Lakers-Suns game, and I had a bunch of Rocket fans in the chat. We were just kind of talking about John Wall. I personally don't think John Wall will be traded this season, but I think part of that is just because I want to be realistic. John Wall is owed over $90 million for the next 2 seasons. So whoever were to actually trade for him this season, they're going to be doggy desperate. Doggy desperate, man. The good news is I can think of 2 teams who should be getting doggy desperate relatively soon. They also have the salaries, or they have the just cap space to make a move like this happen. Because basically, if you're trading for John Wall, you basically have to get a package together of $40 million at the very least. So the Clippers. I want to talk about the Clippers, but before we get into this video, guys, if you enjoy it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Real quick message to all my Rocket boys. I post daily Rocket videos on my Houston Rocket Daily channel. The link is down below. John Wall, man, I saw a tweet earlier today. I don't know which Twitter account it was. I apologize. I think it was a Houston Rocket, some type of account. I saw John Wall. They posted him in a Clippers jersey. And so personally, I'm thinking the Clippers and the Knicks are kind of my 2 top choices as far as getting rid of John Wall. Now, here's the thing that I want to make clear right now. I don't see any reason as far as if we don't trade John Wall, I don't see any reason as to why we need to be in just this urgency to rush this man. Because here's the bottom line. If you're not getting proper value back, what's the point? What's the point? Because you're not going to buy out John Wall this season. I guarantee you the Rockets do not plan on buying John Wall out this season. If it gets desperate, if it gets dire, if John Wall's John Wall should be saying, yo, trade me. Please trade me. Please find a way to make this happen. Or just sit on the bench and collect your check. There is zero reason John Wall needs to play basketball for this Houston Rockets team. And with the arrival, or not the arrival, but the return of Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green in just a couple of days, there is absolutely zero room for minutes for John Wall. No. I don't want to run John Wall, KPJ, and Jalen Green. I don't want to do that. That sounds like a horrible idea. John Wall is a very solid basketball player. Coming off some very devastating injuries, didn't play basketball in over 2 years. And also, we're all aware of how dominant John Wall is. I feel like John Wall's fanboys love commenting are you forgetting how good this guy is? No, I'm not forgetting how good John Wall is. He went 20-7 last year for the Houston Rockets, and he single-handedly kept us in pretty much every single basketball game, especially when Christian Wood was out and before Kevin Porter Jr. came. So I understand John Wall is a phenomenal basketball player, and that's kind of the point. The Clippers. I look at the Clippers and I'm thinking, is Reggie Jackson really the guy who's going to propel you to a championship? Reggie Jackson, to me, I think is obviously he's a streaky shooter. When he is hot, he is hot. But when he is cold, he doesn't do pretty much anything for me. I think last night, when the Clippers played, Reggie went for 10 points, 3 assists. So I'm not trying to discredit Reggie Jackson because, first off, he earned everything he was given this season. But there's also another issue with the Clippers. It's Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe isn't doing much for that squad. And I view the Clippers, and I'm thinking, all right, if you have Paul George and you intend on keeping Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and keeping them both happy, and apparently there's some rumblings out there that Kawhi Leonard might make a return for the playoffs. I highly doubt it. Kawhi isn't the type of guy who's going to rush literally anything back. So I don't really see that happening this year. But a John Wall, Paul George lineup, you have something there. I don't think you have enough to win the championship there. But once Kawhi Leonard returns from injury and you have John Wall, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers aren't thinking about long-term development right now. They're thinking, we have 2 superstars Superstars are not easy to come by, and we need to utilize these two superstars. We need to get everything we can get from them. So what do you need to do? You need to give them help. You need to give them help, guys not named Serge Ibaka. No disrespect to Serge Ibaka. But you need to give these guys legitimate help. And the Clippers, as a unit, as a team, they also have some very fun, young, intriguing prospects. But they have a nice blend of, they got their young players. They have their younger players who are going to contribute, Luke Kennard. And then they have just kind of a bunch of veterans. Bunch of veteran guys who know how to win. They know how to play in the NBA. And they're here to win basketball games. Nick Batum, Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe, Zubats. They're ready to win basketball games. So you throw John Wall on this roster, and you have Reggie Jackson coming off the bench as your sixth man. That's a playoff team. With the way the Clippers are assembled, with the talent they have on their roster, with the defense they have as well, and Paul George being just a really good basketball player, John Wall is a very good basketball player as well, they'd make the playoffs. Now, the Clippers are 16-15 right now, so I believe they would still make the playoffs. And, the Western Conference, there's kind of a huge drop-off from, like, the 10th seed to below. So the Clippers are probably going to make the playoffs regardless of what happens. Unless something crazy were to happen to Paul George, the Clippers are making the playoffs. But the Clippers are either going to make the play-in and get just their shit rocked, or they're going to make some type of playoff seed and get their shit rocked. And if they don't somehow get their shit rocked and they make the next round, that's when it's going to happen. So the Clippers, I think they could really, really use John Wall. But the best part about a Clippers trade is they have pieces that they can provide us. So first-round draft picks, but then they have the salary fillers. I believe, I would imagine Luke Kennard would be in that deal. I would imagine Eric Bledsoe might be in that deal. I would imagine Serge Ibaka's on that. They just have a bunch of players who can help match that salary. Usually, if you are asking just like your average team to like free up $40 million or to match $40 million of cap space of salary, those are usually like either, a young promising player who just got a contract from his rookie year, or it's an experienced, like star-ish type of basketball player that they don't intend on trading. Kind of like an Eric Gordon. Like if Eric Gordon was on a contending team, it's not like they're looking to deal him out. So I am intrigued by the idea of getting a first-round draft pick or several, maybe 2 first-round draft picks. One of them is very late. And a player like Luke Kennard who can just pretty much knock down any three. Now, the whole Garrison Matthews thing kind of complicates that just a little bit. Also, the Rockets do have a plethora of just guards in general off that bench, especially Amani Brooks, Josh Christopher. So that's the reason why I would imagine that Rafael Stone hasn't pulled any triggers, because if he's getting a package of like Luke Kennard, Serge, and Eric Bledsoe or whatever, and not a draft pick, he's hanging up the phone. Because like I said, you can buy out John Wall next season. Doesn't make much sense to buy him out right now unless he's throwing temper tantrums and hissy fits and ruining the team locker room, ruining the team chemistry. He seems perfectly okay with sitting. So we'll see. I'm sure, like, if you really, had a heart-to-heart with him, he'd say, like, yeah, this is not a, obviously, ideally, I'd be liking to play basketball, but this isn't a horrible situation that I'm in right now. Lastly, we have the Knicks. The New York Knicks are struggling as well, and this is a very, very talented basketball team. Derrick Rose as your starting point guard doesn't, and trust me, guys, I'm from Chicago. I've had Derrick Rose for several years. It's not the same Derrick Rose, but it is a very, 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 very good Derrick Rose. But I think if you were to get a player like John Wall and you were to throw him in that starting line, a guy who has playoff experience, a guy who can just single-handedly take over a basketball game, I think that would propel the Knicks to a step higher of wherever they're at right now. Because, even if the Knicks will probably make the playoffs this year, but for me, if the Knicks make the playoffs this year, I'm imagining they're getting booted out in the first round, because last year they didn't show me anything that they have that is like eye-glaring, because you had Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose was your best player for the New York Knicks last season in the playoffs. That shouldn't happen. I love Derrick Rose, all respect to Derrick Rose, no disrespect intended. That can't happen. That can't happen. There's a cat named Julius Randle who just won Most Improved Player of the Year, put up a ridiculous stat line, and in the playoffs he crumbled. So I view the Knicks also as a possible guy for John Wall, not only due to struggles, but also just due to they have salary. They got the salary cap where they wouldn't even really have to match the whole $40 million. So that's it for today, guys. Drop some comments down below on what you would like to see happen to John Wall. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button as well. We're about, I think, 190 subscribers away from 10,000, and we got a little over a week. So appreciate all the love. Hopefully we hit 10K before the end of the year. That's it for me. Peace.